young people, it's very important for them to view election as a cycle. There's a problem when young people, they just also only come to vote on the voting day without understanding the electoral cycle. Here I'm talking of pre-elections, the election itself, and the post-elections. And we will be able to establish how best can we respond to issues. And they will be also able to know at what point can we participate. Also quite critical is they have to identify themselves in that. To add value to the electoral process, the youth must understand and familiarize with election cycle, as I've alluded to. And to move on to answer to some of these critical realities, it is important also to note that Africa's greatest resource is its youthful population. And through their active and full participation, Africans can surmount the difficulties that are ahead of them. And as a way to answer to some of the questions, I'm going to use what is called the youth development model. And due to limited time that I have, I'm going to marathon some of the interventions, but also singling out what can be done, what lessons has been learned, and what recommendations do we give. So the youth development model can answer what we are discussing, ladies and gentlemen, here. So the model focuses on response to the problems that youth are facing, and on the day basis, and makes definition of youth as in line with Africa Youth Charter, that is 15 to 35 years. And generally, youth constitute over 70%, has been said. Some argue 60%. But the argument is they constitute a larger population, which we need to take into account when we're discussing of elections. The youth development model is a broad approach that seeks to promote various and diverse strategies. And this it also helps in terms of this, how best can we respond to youth issues at national, regional, international level. And the model highlights various youth development strategies and the best approach and effective development. The model takes note of how youth have been manipulated in the political systems by various systems, functionaries, such as treated as mobilizers, you know, during electoral times, to say they just need to mobilize, and also programs, not as leaders. The use of violent conflicts, agents of violence, among other issues, that manipulation. And of quite importance on the model is the four-lens approach. And if we are going to have approach to young people, we need to take note young people not only as beneficiaries of state resources, but we need to take young people as stakeholders, stockholders, leaders for transformation, change makers. At that time, they will be able to know that they are part of national discourse and their participation will be effective. And also the model emphasizes on the participatory approach, not that issues are just brought before them. What is also quite critical is the issue of the 10 Ps that I'm not going to talk about within the youth development model. Primacy, I'm not going to explain them because of time. Primacy, prioritization, participation, partnerships, policies. But what I can only explain is the issue of another P, which is called production, which is part of the youth development model. Why production? Here we are talking of factors of production. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't discuss, I think this discussion has been already titillated. We can't discuss of effective youth participation when the youth does not own factors of production. Basically, this is land, labor, and capital. And for you to be able to make decisions that are not influenced, young people must be empowered enough. We have seen in most SADC countries whereby maybe the aspect of poverty and unemployment is used as an aspect to influence the elections outcomes, because young people, they will be in need of that few resources for them to be able to vote for a candidate, but not choosing a candidate based on policies that one is presenting. So production is very quite critical, owning of factors of production. Then other P's are peace, power, then Pan-Africanism approach to development. I think Africa should stand on its toe to make sure that what do we call democracy? I've been listening when people have been talking about whether democracy is a means towards. I think we need to revise the question. We need to talk about African democracy, because some of the things that we are being taught as democracy, it can be contextualized, it can be fixed to be in the United States, not in our context. We've got all our traditional systems, we've got our own mechanisms that we participate, and we have got our own celebrated democracy. The reason why elections are becoming so difficult in Africa because you want to take the Western type of democracy, which might not be working when we are talking of the aspect of participation. So this is something that is being highlighted within the youth development model. Allow me to conclude the youth development model by highlighting that the youth development model outlines young people are not a homogeneous group. So if we are talking of elections, we should not treat young people as a homogeneous group. They are different. And by classifying them, the youth development model categorized them as 17 categories. That is, they need to map their needs, aspirations, limitations, understanding. And we've got young people with disabilities, we've got young people, young women, youth in rural areas, young people in schools, youth in business, informal sectors, young people from minority communities, young artists, among others. And if we understand these different categories, we are able, even the election body, they can be able to target, to say how best can we make sure that young people with disability can participate. They are also able to target how best can we respond to the issues that are being faced by young women. So they are not a homogeneous group. Very few youth are able to access mainstream formal political and governance processes. Several others are forced to take informal, including through protests and disobedience. The reason why young people are now protesting because of lack of those spaces to participate and should be a debate. Africa, there is a youth category that choose to participate in political and electoral process and finds innovative ways to get involved and make a difference. Another category does not participate because they are either politically marginalized and frustrated, and their needs are not met. The last one, the third, another category, they are exposed to violent extremism due to economic factors, such as unemployment. And the end of participating in terrorism activities, I think we've got good examples in the region. Moderator, my last two slides, if you can allow me, is to focus on the emerging issues in electoral processes. And one of the emerging issues in electoral processes is we need to look at the demand use of technology, innovation in an electoral process, responsible use of technology and innovation, e.g., e-voting. Young people right now, they are very innovative and they must be able to participate. They can't queue for 10 hours waiting to vote while there can be an option that they can register through online. So we need to have a discussion around that. Registration, social media use. They are on social media, they are able to influence, but it has to be used responsibly. Someone talked about the issue of regulation, the issue of voter cards, among other things. So those is another emerging issue. Then youth as stakeholders, youth must be treated as voters, youth must be treated as candidates, youth must be treated as policy influencers in electoral process. Strengthening of capacities to youth structures, including youth CSOs, youth groups, youth organizations, youth traditional and religious groups, students, youth in communities. Promote youth-focused research-based interventions that respond to some of these issues that we are discussing. Policy frameworks that are youth-friendly. For example, electoral laws, quota systems can also help on the participation of young people as a vehicle. Yes, we provide spaces for youth to participate, but they can be an engine. Access to resources for youth. For example, mentorship. I'm very glad that on mentorship we've already started that as SAYOF in partnership with SADC PF. We have what we call the SADC Youth Parliament with representatives from 2 countries from each country, 16 SADC countries. So we've got 38 young parliamentarians that are under that mentorship and 2 representatives of persons with disabilities. And the purpose is to make sure that they are capacitated and also be engines to capacitate others in the nations that they come from. Then intergenerational learning and dialogue. This aspect of coming to say young people should take power without also respecting the elderly. You know, we cannot go far without involving that. We can't say, you can't do it side-by-side concept will work. Because here, like in the youth development model, there's aspect of power that I've talked about. So power, if you have a threat to power, the elders will not allow you to lead. So young people also should not come as a threat, but as a complement to development. Since I'm given 2 minutes, Exclusionary, on lessons learned, there's exclusionary provisions on access to public office, e.g. age caps. You find out in some countries, you find out someone is allowed to vote at 18, but is not allowed to be voted for at 18. So you're allowed to vote for someone, but you are not allowed to vote for. So we need to revise those age caps, even at presidency, maybe lowering them so that young people can participate. Then qualifications, years of experience, electoral and political motivation violence, the task, it takes a face of youth. As youth are largely manipulated, I talked about that. And future considerations, I'll read them as I conclude. Political financing, youth mentorship support, I talked about. We are also planning to launch a youth academy together with SADC PF, enhancing political will, adapting a technological revolution on electoral process, empowering youth voters, candidates, electoral education, behavioral change,